everyone, I'm Martin and welcome to another great edition of Astronomy for Beginners, and today I'm going to do a review and guide on the latest new product that's come out on the Astro market today, and this is the GP cam from Alto Astro. This is a budget Astro cam. It can be used as a guider, can also be used for imaging planets and basic deep sky objects. Very cheap to buy, costs £135, which is the cheapest Astro cam going around, which is also dual purpose. Now with this item is that you can get in two variants. You can get a mono and a color. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a closer look in the contents of the box, and basically I'm going to show you what are the features inside the box, what does it come with, my views. I'm also going to show you how to set up a guide scope with this camera using the software, using all the techniques that I use, so that once you get your auto guider set up, you can then begin to have a good chance of guiding straight away, straight out of the box. So, however, one thing I do need to highlight is auto guiding is a technique that astronomers use to take great pictures of long deep sky objects through a timed exposure. Now, when I say timed exposure, it means that you have got your telescope tracking. The guide scope with the camera fitted basically tells the mount where to slew when the stars start to trail. When the stars start to trail, the guide camera on the guide scope will send out signals to the mount and tell it to recorrect it, to slow down, to speed up, and counterbalance against the star drift. One thing I do need to highlight is that this guiding method only works with an EQ mount. Now, if you're owner with an AZ mount like these are not going to work on a guided system. Basically, you need to look at something, a minimum of an EQ32 SynScan or an EQ5 SynScan mount with an ST4 port lead. Now on the mount it will have the ST port lead, so you can connect the camera straight to the mount. You must have that ST4 lead. Without it you cannot guide. So before you invest in any money, make sure you check your mount, make sure that it has this ST4 port. Okay, so setups like these are not adequate. They are only basic mounts. They will give you good views of the planets, it will track the planets and for visual use only. You can use it to take lunar and planetary. Not so great on deep sky images. You can't take long exposures with these mounts. You can, to a certain fair extent, maybe 25 to 30 seconds at the most before the stars start to trail on these mounts. So an EQ mount is the one you're going to be looking at. So what we will do is show you on the EQ5 mounts or the EQ mounts, and I'll show you an example where this ST4 lead is. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a closer look on this great product from Alto Astro. And as you go through the review, so if you're interested in this great product from Alto Astro, please contact Neil from Tring Astronomy on this link below. Click on there and it'll take you straight to his website so you can purchase this great item. Alright, so if you like it, hit that tab button there and order it now, because at this price it's pretty good. You can't get a guide camera at this price, nothing else, and it's brand new. It's a new product from Alto Astro, and like I say, I can't wait to see how it goes. So what we're doing now is we're going to take a closer look on the GP cam. So, very small package we got here. The GP camera from Alto Astro. It's the first camera in line that Alto Astro have launched, and it's a USB 2. So basically the camera will work for most computers with USB ports. It comes with a variety of colours as well. At first, we'll take a close look, and inside here we've got a nice foam insert, which is very handy, which I do like. I do like these foam inserts, because the reason for this, you can actually use these foam inserts, put it in a much sturdier case, so you can make a box out of that, a proper box, instead of just a cardboard. So something to look forward to, right? And as you can see, you can take the whole thing out. Okay, we'll put the box to one side and the top lid, and you can see this nice smart foam insert all the way around. Okay, I do like that, and you can make a proper box for that, or put it in a aluminium case or something like that. So take a closer look at the camera itself. It's very well packed. It comes with a 1.25 inch nose piece. It comes with the USB 2 lead and a very good quality ST4 lead. Okay, so it's very good quality, and we could take a closer look at the camera. We'll move them. So this is a multi-purpose camera. You could take great pictures of the planets and the moon. You can use it to do some basic deep sky images of some of the brighter DSOs in the sky, like M57 or the Orion Nebula. And it's basically the sensor is a CMOS sensor, and basically it's a 1.2 megapixels camera. It's a 1/3 sensor, and it's the sensors that they use is an Aptina sensor, a CMOS sensor. The exposure you get from these is around about 800 seconds, so it's not great, but you can get around about a good 10 minute exposures with this camera. The pixel size on this camera is 3.75 to 3.75 microns, and it can do a resolutions of 1280 times by 960 pixels. So it's quite a big pixel size, and the frames per rate you can get from this camera, depending on how much of the resolutions you can get, on the maximum setting of the 1280 by 96 pixel size, you can get around 30 frames per second. So it's quite a lot for capturing loads of frames of planets. Down to the lowest setting, you can get up to about 200 frames per second, around about 220 times by 240 mode. That's 200 frames per second. But usually, when you're imaging planets, an ideal setting that I use is around about 640 to 480 pixels sizes. So basically the pixel size is the actual image size of that chip. So whether you're recording a planet or the moon, that is the pixel size of the image you get. The bigger the pixel size, the less of the frames per second. But ideally that size, 640 by 480 frames per second, you can get around 100 frames per second with this camera, which is quite a lot of frames, and that's what you need. The good thing about this camera is it's an ionized aluminium body, very lightweight. It does have inside here, if we look closely, if we can, it does actually have a built-in IR UV built-in sensor filter. So the glass element inside will not only protect the actual chip itself, but it also protects dust from getting into the chip. Okay, so, and also help to increase the sensitivity of that camera as well. Now it draws very low power, around about 0.8 watts, which is quite good. Basically this can be powered directly straight from a computer or laptop through the USB 2 lead. There is no USB 3 at the moment with this camera, but the thing is with the auto guiding, you do not need a very expensive camera to guide. Believe me, you do not need to invest on a high powered CCD or CMOS camera to auto guide. Now it's a very basic guider. It's also a good planetary imager, and you can use it for deep sky. It's dual purpose, and to be honest with you, for £135 for this camera, I don't think you can argue. Now one thing I do like is it does have its own C-mount. You know, you need a C-mount adapter, and luckily this comes with it, and basically you can just attach the C-mount nose piece on there, and basically you can attach it directly to your telescope. Long as if it's 1.25 inches or a 1.25 inch eyepiece holder, it's fine. I do like the leads that came with this. Alright, they're very good leads, good quality leads. They're well packaged, and as you can see, yeah, I do like this because this is a 2 meter lead for the USB. Okay, very good quality lead, and I do like how they are sort of gold connections as well, so I do like that. The ST4 lead, again, very good quality, and this is a 1.5 meter ST4 lead. Now this is the lead that you're going to need if you're going to use it for auto guiding. You need this lead. This is basically a 6-pin lead, and this will connect at the back of the camera here, like so, and it's very snugly fit. I like that, nicely snugly fit, and then you can attach this lead onto the mount, and then you have your USB attached there to power the camera. I do like that. It's very strong fitment. I mean, look at that. I like that. I like the security on this camera. As you can see, very good firm fixture. I love the connections on that. That's really good. Even on the USB side, look at that. That's I like that. And yeah, that's very important, that when you buy a camera, particularly when you're auto guiding, you need strong port connectors so that they don't come off when you're guiding, because if you get any loose connections in there, it will affect your guiding and will affect your images. So look for a camera with good connections like these, because these are very impressive. Despite being a cheaper camera, quality, you can't compromise for quality. Now one thing I don't particularly like about this camera, and I'm going to highlight it, is the dust caps. But it's okay, it's a push on fit dust cap. Alright, it will protect the camera from dust and dirt. It's not really crucial if you get a bit of dust in the on the glass itself if you're auto guiding. It's not really necessary, but all you need is to focus on a bright star and lock onto the star. But however, if you're going to image it, we're using it as a main imager for taking deep sky objects or planets. You can't afford to have any dust bunnies or dust particles on the sensor, and otherwise it will show up on the images. So again, I think that Alto Astro should have done like a screw-on cap that screws into the thread here, but the security is pretty good on the cap. It's not bad. However, when you put the nose piece in, there's the other problem. It doesn't fit into the nose piece on that. So where the dust cap not being firmly fixed, you have to take off the nose piece and then fit the cap back on. So yeah, the dust cap isn't up to much, but it does fit quite well and it's quite secure and it will protect the sensor. And another thing about the camera, there is no available drivers with it. Basically there's no CD where you can update the driver for this camera, so you can run some of the capture programs. Now, where a word of warning is, never run anything, connect the camera onto the laptop without a driver. So you need to install the drivers onto your computer. Now, if you click on the link below, you will be able to get the latest driver for this camera first, and the drivers are basically straight onto the GP camera drivers software, and you can install it straight away from there. So if you're going to use the camera after you've installed your drivers, you can install the Alto Capture Astro software. There is a link below that as well. You can also, if you're going to use it for a guider, you can use the camera to run PhD2, which is a guiding software, and you can use click on the link below that and you can use this camera as a guider. So once all your drivers and your capture software and your guiding software is installed, you can then begin to start testing the camera. And basically I'm going to go through how to set up a typical guide scope. It's very important that you get the camera set up in the day, testing it on a dry run, so that when you begin to set up your camera ready for taking images or your guiding, your setup during at night, you don't need to be wasting a lot of time and effort. Once you get the initial setup, you can then fine tune it slightly at night and you should be focused on your stores. Because the main problem about this camera is that it can be a bit fiddly when you're trying to set it up out of the box and trying to focus on a star. The camera is quite small. Dimensions is around about 63mm long with the nose piece attached, so it's quite compact. There is, as you notice, there is a little serrated edge there, so basically this camera does not need the nose piece to fit into guide scopes and all that. It'll fit even further into the tube of a guide scope, so you can actually use this part as a nose piece, so it slots straight in. The 20mm extension tube will help on other optical tube setups. This is particularly important with this little edge part here, where if you're using a finder scope and you're trying to convert it into a guide scope, you can slot this into the 1.25" of the guide scope. Particularly on the Orion ones, if you've seen the Orion finder guiders, those little finder scopes, they can fit straight into this camera with no problems, and that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to show you that one. You can actually use other finder scopes as a guider, and with this setup is that as long as you've got the 1.25" adapter and you can fit this inside the nose piece, then that's fine with that. Reason why I'm using a guide scope, I find that using a 50mm guide scope, not only because it's compact, it's lighter and doesn't put high demand onto your mount. Now, finder scopes of 50mm are ideal for telescopes of a focal length of 1500 or less. If you've got 1500mm or less of the telescope, you can use the 50mm guide scope as a way to guide your setup. And because it's light, it's compact, it doesn't put high loads onto your mount, and you want to minimize as much of weight as you can if you're guiding, because you don't want to put too much weight on a mount. So again, this is very compact, 70 grams it weighs. The good thing about this setup, because it's aluminium, it has excellent cooling properties, because this aluminium body will act like a heat sink and it will dissipate some of the heat, which is ideal, what you want. So again, it will stabilize the camera, and so when you're taking long exposures, if you want to use this as a main imager camera, you can take long exposure deep sky objects and it will try and minimize most of the noise as possible. However, it will not completely remove all the noise. It's just that you need to take dark frames, which you need to refer that to my other guide, and that's the way you're gonna if you want to take successful deep sky objects, you need to combine the darks with your sub light frames combined to minimize that noise. You're always going to get noise, even on the most expensive cameras. Believe it or not, all these CCDs that you see that cost £1,000 and plus, you still need to take darks regardless. No matter what camera you buy, that's the way it is. So I'm going to use the GP camera, and I'm going to use it on this Orion 50mm guide scope. This is basically a small finder. You can get them from a lot of good Astro shops, and the good thing about this, it's compact, it's light, and it's a fantastic little guider. Now the thing with guiding is you do not need a big guide scope or expensive item. You can just use a Skywatcher finder scope, as long as if you've got an adapter that fits on the back to accept 1.25" eyepieces or cameras. Okay, this setup already has everything you need, and it's fantastic. You do not need a massive guide scope. You do not need an expensive camera just to do guiding. For guiding purposes, this GP camera is perfect. It's an ideal companion, and it's everything you need. Now, as I mentioned for my last video guide, I used this. This was the QHY 5L2. Fantastic camera for imaging some basic deep sky and planets as well. And also this can be attached onto the finder scope like so. Now, just need to highlight a few things. That the GP camera is a lot smaller, and it seems a lot more compact compared to the QHY5. With comparison with these two cameras, they're both light. The QHY5 is quite compact, but this is a lot more smaller. It's a lot tiny compared to the QHY5L. The chip size on the QH5L is a bit bigger than this one, but don't let that concern you, because this, no matter what size camera you use, if you use it for guiding, it's perfect. You don't need an expensive camera to start guiding. They're more or less practically the same sort of camera. The one thing that the GP cam doesn't have is it doesn't have a lock ring, which is quite handy, so that when you get a chief focus, you can clamp to this lock ring and basically will set your camera setting for the focus. So basically, when you're focused on a star, you lock this lock ring, and basically when you come to set up, you just connect the camera onto your guide scope and you're already focused. However, on this camera, it doesn't have a lock ring, which I'm afraid. But don't let that concern you, because don't forget the price difference compared to this camera and this QHY5 is massive. I mean, if you're on a low budget, this camera will fit for most amateurs' budget. Alright, so obviously I can see why Alto Astro have developed this camera to keep costs down, so that making it affordable compared to the QHY5L. Okay, it has a few extras compared to this, but don't let that concern you, because the GP camera, it's brilliant. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach this, and we're going to attach the nose piece. Now, depending on the camera setup, you can basically just fit it straight into the camera. You can see already, after I slotted that in there, look at how much room is used compared to the QHY. If I take this camera out and I put the QHY 5 in there, you can see a massive difference already. You know, if once that slots in there, you know, amount of space that's used up, and this camera, the GP cam, compared to that, yeah, I like that. I actually do like that. It makes it a lot more compact, and it also reduces some of the weight issues and balance problems. So I do like that. So now the camera's installed, we're now going to do a rough focus on a distant object, and we're going to use the setup, use the camera setup to adjust the focus. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a closer look on setting up a dry run, testing this camera out and see how it goes. Alright, so we'll go from there. Now we're focused on the image. Now I've noticed one thing about this camera is that on the Ryan guide scope, the camera is right on the end, and I'm not really particularly happy about that. So in a way, this camera is perfect for a standard Skywatcher finder scope. That's not to worry about that. But on the Orion one, the camera is off the edge almost, and I'm not really particularly happy about that at all. However, it doesn't mean say you can't use it as a guider. You know, as long as these screws are screwed in tight, then it should be okay. Another method is, because I don't want to adjust the finder scope, you can adjust it outwards, this by adjusting this part here and moving the objective lens up, so that then you can push the camera in a little bit more to make it more stable. And it should be fine for the Skywatcher ones, because the Skywatcher one finder scopes are a lot longer. Now, because this is a dedicated guide scope, the focal point on this finder scope is quite small. But on the Skywatcher ones and all the standard finder scopes, this camera will fit straight in a lot more, because it's a lot more steady. On this one, because the finder scope is a lot shorter, it's alright, I suppose. So I'm going to show you the website, and the website is the altoastro.com. Very good website. It tells you exactly what you need to do to update your drivers. It then tells you in different steps and stages what you're going to use the camera for. And I quite like this website. So before you connect the camera, get your drivers updated first. And we're going to do that now. So basically we're going to download your drivers first, and then you're going to run it, and then click yes, go through all the procedures, yeah, install. Then it will ask you if you like to install this software. Yes, install. It is as simple as that. That's basically now my driver installed for that camera. And then you just go, if you're using Windows, you can use Alto Capture software, which has its own software. So we're going to download that. Click through that, install. And there you go. That will launch the Alto Capture software. So after your updates are complete and your drivers are installed, we will show you the Alto Capture software later. If you're going to use the camera for PhD2, you can install the PhD2 software. This is very crucial if you want to use the camera as an auto guider. So you can download from here. And one good thing about this camera is if you've got any problems or technical support, you can actually visit the Altair Astro user group, and there'll be people there that'll be able to give you some good advice on your setup. So the main part of this is I'll go through the basic structures of the Alto Capture software, Capture program. Capture program can be used for deep sky and solar system video as well. So you can take long exposure of astral objects, and you can take good images of the planets, and we'll go through that software. Later on in the guide we'll also go through PhD2, and we're going to show you how to use it, use the auto guider camera. So now we'll proceed to the next step. Basically what we've done is we've connected the camera to the guide scope, and we've got the lead, and you wait for the cable and the computer to register the camera. What we're going to do now is we're going to activate Alto Capture, and basically you're going to run the camera. We select at the top, the camera's already auto detected, and you click on it to give you a live view. Okay, what we're doing now, I do a rough focus on the camera. Now the reason I do a rough focus on the camera is that you can get it near enough adjusted focus, so your image, so you focus on an object, make sure that the main tube is aligned with a guide scope, and to do that is usually you set your eyepiece, you put your eyepiece on there, focus on an object, a faraway object, around about an ideal object, it's like a mass or a building, something that's like 2, maybe 3 kilometers away. And basically you focus on an object, and then you adjust your finder scope, which is basically adjusting these screws, and you should be within view. Now the rough focus, now I'm doing it during the day, and because this camera is so sensitive, it's so bright that you have to adjust the levels on the program. Now another technique that I do, and it's quite handy, is if you've got an owner of one of these, a polarizing filter like a moon filter or something that can dim it. Alright, and there's a main reason why you can do that is if you dim it on the lowest setting on this polarizing filter, you attach it to the nose piece. So I attach the polarizing filter onto the camera, and I basically adjusted it so that it's on the maximum filtering setting. So basically I've dimmed the camera sensor. I then attach it to the guide scope like so, all the way down to the recess. Okay, make sure your screws are out. And basically what we're going to do is you look at the computer screen on the live view, and basically what you're doing is you're going to slide the camera in and out like so till you achieve focus. Now this is only a rough focus, but when you're properly setting up, when you're about to do your imaging session, you focus on the bright star, and basically you just do another fine tune of the setting of the camera. So then you'll be able to achieve focus and then be able to lock it in place. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go straight to the software and show you. So we're using the Alto Capture, and we are focused on a distant object. As you see here, it's a time delayed exposure, so if you want to speed it up or slow it down, you can always adjust the exposure, okay, and adjust the levels like so. And it's on the lowest setting, and the reason why we've put the filter so you get the image. Now you can do this at low light or at night, but I do this during the day, and it saves a lot of time and effort. So basically we're not quite focused, so we move the camera itself along the tube. Okay, and there you go. We lock the screws in place, and then that's our camera focused. and that's the basic setup. Now just be careful when you're going to do this at night, is make sure you take the polarizing filter out before you start imaging the stars. Now you can do this at night and adjust it that way, but that's how I do it during the day. If you haven't got a polarizing filter, not to worry, you can always adjust it by the gains, right, and adjust the gain levels up. Okay, and as long as you can just make out what you're seeing and you focus, that's fine. Again, you still have to adjust it, focus it. So I've focused the image, and basically I've got a background 3 or 4 kilometers. You can see a few birds and all that with a time delay. Now we're using Alto Capture. Now this capture program is basically can be used not only as a planetary or lunar capture software, but like ShortCap, it can actually be used as a deep sky capturing program as well. And there seem to be a lot of these programs coming out at the moment where they're sort of dual purpose. So there's no need for buying software. This is a freeware software which can be downloaded from the actual website. It's free to use, and basically I'm just going to go through a series of these functions. The first thing I do like about this program is that it automatically detects your camera. No matter what you do, if we slide up the top, the camera is detected straight away. So that's one handy feature I do like. Secondly, there's a series of folders here where you can set your capture folder, and you can then start imaging. And again, it's like ShortCap. We're going to basically say, look, where you can set your live view to different modes like that. Now as you're adjusting modes, the smaller the screen size, the faster the frames per rate you get. And as you can see, the rate here, the exposure time is a lot quicker. But again, if you go to a bigger screen, you get a wider field of view, but then you get a lot less reduced frames. And the nice handy feature is if you look here, you can see the frame rate. Now this is particularly important when you're imaging planets. You want to maximize much of that frame rate. At the moment it's at a frame rate at 6.4 and it varies. But as you progress, you can do the settings here, and your live view here will indicate how many frames per second you get. So the smaller the screen size, and you can see the frame rates increase. Now that's only just a live view. When you do actually do the recording, you can actually set your views. So, and the one good thing is if you go up to view, you can actually put it on full screen, which is very handy. Is if you want to show your audience or your guests, you can show them on a bigger picture, and you can see where you're imaging the planets or deep sky object, which is another handy feature. Another thing I do like is if you scroll this part here, it looks to me you can actually set your exposure window. So in a way, say like you're slightly off, you can actually move this exposure window. Now this exposure window is basically, if once you start capturing whatever's inside that box, it will image that that planet or deep sky object, which is a nice little handy feature. And you can actually adjust this box to the full screen if you want, which is great. I love that. That's really handy to have. So if you're slightly off, say like you got a small galaxy in the far corner, you can, if you're slightly off, there is no requirement for you to actually move the telescope. You can actually move this box, slide it across, so that we're going to slide it to this corner here,
and say like this part here. Here what will happen now is that little galaxy will be imaged in the center, which is quite handy. I actually love that. It's a very good function there. So we minimize that and we go back to the normal screen. And again, you could do snapshots, but again, which is another thing. This part here, that's basically your capture resolution. So you set up your settings you want, and then you can go and you can select different menus. Now the menus is you still got your exposures and your gains and all that. I'm not going to go far too much in depth for that. All right. Basically, you set your gains, you set your exposure, particularly for like planets or deep sky objects. So you need to like adjust it to exact settings. But I'm not going to go far too much in detail on that. It does have a nice little feature. You can actually adjust your color balance. So you can actually adjust your balance to. So yeah, the color balance is more for the colored cameras. Now this is a mono, and there's no requirement to adjust the color settings. Again, you have your hue and saturation, which is quite handy. There's quite a lot of features here. So you can actually adjust your color balance. You can actually adjust your hue, your saturation, your brightness. If we scroll down, gamma and all that. That's really good. I like that. Yeah, and the good thing is I like these tables. You can actually minimize these tables. Frame rate. You can actually adjust your frame rate. So the higher the speed, the more frames you can get. You can adjust that. We minimize this. Color and gray. You can actually adjust your settings to suit whatever, you want it in mono mode or you want it on color. At the moment, because it's mono, it's sort of fixed, so there's no requirements for that. Another handy feature I do like is you can actually flip your images. So like if you own a Newtonian, the one thing with mirrored images, it seems to be upside down or back to front. And you can actually adjust your image settings that way. Same as your vertical. If you've got a refractor and it's upside down, there's no requirement to move your camera upright. So you can actually adjust your live images up and down, left and right. That is brilliant. I love that. I love that feature. Believe it or not, it has a live histogram. This is particularly important if you want to balance your color levels and you want the histogram to be more or less, so you can adjust it that way for planets and all that. But I'm not going to go into depth with that. This part here is like a dark field correction. Basically, you can take darks and always those dark frames. There's also another function, we minimize that, is it's got a cooling function. So you can activate the cooling system on these cameras. Now there is no cooling facility on this camera. I guess the Alto Astro are going to bring some cooled cameras. But at the moment, because there's no camera on that function, I don't think that will be available. We go on to that, the exposure in game, and if you're taking deep sky objects, if you switch it off, say like we want to take a photo, so we adjust that exposure window. Okay. So you got your exposure window to the max, right? And we'll use this picture. If we take those exposure off, you can actually, if you click on that button here, and you can actually move your exposure. As you can see here, it's in milliseconds. So you increase it, and then you start seeing minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5. It looks to me that the software only allows you to go to 13 minutes and 20 seconds. So that is the maximum exposure rate that this camera can achieve. For a basic deep sky imager, I mean 5 minutes and 10 minutes exposure times is more than ample for most deep sky objects. But when you want to up the exposure limit way past that, then that's when you're going, particularly for really faint objects, then the only way you're going to do this is by just collecting more and more frames and keep stacking those images. But again, for a basic all-round camera, I mean, that's pretty impressive. 13 minutes and 20 seconds is more than ample, and 5 minutes or 10 minutes is all you need, really. One thing you can do is you can adjust it with your mouse. Alright, you can adjust it with your mouse, but you can also use your arrow keys to get it the exposure rates you want as well. But as you see, this is on a live view, and you can see it overexpose the image. Another feature I do like is it does have its crosshair function. So as you can see, there's quite a few functions, very easy to get access to. What we're going to do is we're going to try and do a capture. So if we select, we set an exposure. If we go to record, call it landscape. You can select your video where it wants to go. So we'll use that as a capture file. You go to next, and it also gives you a series. Do you want which video format you want it? Now, if you're capturing planets, you just click on AVI and you click next, and you can set different time limits, or you can actually do a time-lapse video as well. That's something else I've not noticed before. So again, you can capture a time-lapse video or a set time limit. So just imagine we're going to just do a time limit of 1 minute, and we'll just finish. Basically what it's doing now, what you're going to do now is we're going to click on record button, and it's going to do a video shot of that image. Okay. And just wait until it stops. So now it's doing a recording. So now it's done its recording, we're going to check back on our file that we saved it at. And there you go. We check on there. And that's our AVI file we just collected. Now, one thing I didn't particularly like there is that there is no notification when the video is complete. I think that Altair Astro will need to do an update on this so that it has the function to let you know that the video is captured. There doesn't seem to be any notification of this. So that's our AVI file created. So what we're going to do is this is a snap mode. I've just clicked on snap and it takes a single picture. Now, if you want to take astro photos of deep sky objects, long exposure, if you take that button off, the auto exposure button off, you can adjust your exposure times so that you can go all the way up to whatever, 13. So we're going to set an exposure time. Take a snapshot of that. Okay, as you can see here, this is a snapshot. This is just a single picture, and it's just taken and it's overexposed. But don't worry, the image is still there. Because there's too much light out there, it's basically overexposed it. So basically, this is particularly handy when you want to take very faint objects. You need to up the exposure time to get the image. But what we're going to do is we're going to set an exposure time. So we want to do, we'll scroll down and we'll do like a minute exposure time. Okay, so we want to do 1 minute exposure time. We want to, and basically do a record button. Okay, we'll call it landscape long exposure, for example. Click next. We want it to collect as an SCR. I don't know what that means, but you don't want an AVI file, because if you're going to collect a the trouble is, or if you collect it with an AVI file, you can't stack it on Deep Sky Stacker. So select that function there. Now I don't know what the SER stands for, but I'm guessing that's what it is. Okay, and you can set your how many minutes you want this going. So like we're going to do a 5-minute exposure, and basically you just click the record button, and it should take a picture. Now, it should take a long exposure picture, but again, it's only Astro Alto only just started out, so I'm sure they'll do more updates on this program. It does look like you can take long exposures, which is a good thing. But again, there's a few minor glitches to the program. I'm not saying it's a bad program and all that. It's just there are improvements need to be made. However, okay, one good thing I do like about the program is that whatever recording you do, it actually, there's a nice little feature where you can actually see some of your recordings. So there's no need to close the program down, look at the pictures, and you can actually delete your files and all that if you want to modify it now. So there is, I do like that. That's a nice little feature there. But so whatever you do recording, it saves it on there on the little tabs at the top. Looking through all the menus, it seems to be that you can actually do processing or stacking. You can actually image stack. So in other words, I think working this out, you can actually use this program to stack images, which is another handy feature. But I don't know exactly how that works, but it seems to be that there's an imaging stacking facility and adjusting levels and exposures, so you can actually do a bit of post-processing as well as stacking. I've not seen that before in any capture program that allows you to do this, but I'm sure give Alto Astro a few months time, I reckon they'll be able to update this program and allow you to do more. Don't forget, this is a brand new camera. They've only just come out, and already first impressions, seeing how the camera's performed straight out of the box, I'm actually quite impressed with the results. Can't wait to test this camera out on using it as an auto guider. Again, the camera's dual purpose. It can be used as a planetary camera, it can be used as a deep sky camera, but I'm going to use this camera as an auto guider, and basically I'm going to test it out, see how it performs. So far, the impressions of this camera already, it's so easy, it works straight from out of the box, no hassles. Now, this is only just a presentation to show well that certain functions of the Alto Capture program. I mean, I'm only just working it out myself how this works, and so far, some reactions to it. There are a few minor glitches to the program itself, but don't let that dishearten you. It's free. I'm sure they're going to do some updates on there, but already seeing what I'm getting here is very promising, and I do like. There are a few handy functions I've never seen before. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my imaging setup, and then we're going to use PhD2 for guiding and use that program. So everyone, we're outside. I've got my telescope set up, watch a 102mm refractor, and I've got the GP cam connected. Now I'm not using an EQ mount, I'm just using an Altair as a mount, and I'm just going to test the camera's performance. As you can see here, these are not perfect conditions. Slight hazy cloud cover, and you can see this is in 640 by 480 mode, and there's some really good detail on the moon there. So the camera is really capturing all that hidden detail. I'm mostly tracking by hand, which is not ideal, but it just shows that this is a pretty good camera. I'm getting around about 62 frames per second. Okay, it's not the fastest camera, but I'll be able to get some really good shots from there. And because of the chip being very small, it looks like I'm going to have to use a focal reducer. Now this is a f5, and you can see that the moon just overwhelms the size. You can increase the frame rate to a bigger picture, but as you can see, the frames per second is not ideal. Yeah, it's not ideal. However, we're going to go to 640 by 480 mode, and we'll take a few shots from there. So now change the focal reducer, and the refractor 102mm is now at f2.5, and I've got a bit of a wider field of view. And again, when you increase the f ratio, you need to lower the gain and the exposure, so the light is being collected really quickly. And because it's still pretty narrow, the field of view, which tells me this will make an excellent camera for capturing close-ups of Jupiter and Saturn. So, which tells me also you don't really need to use a Barlow lens, particularly if you're using a Maxutov or any telescope that's got a long focal length. So from the look of it, it looks like a very good camera for close-ups of the planets and the moon. Now this is a f2.5. Now if you see this hazy gradient here, which appears to be a halo, that's just the atmosphere. Basically there's cloud cover there and it's giving that effect. So don't worry about that, there's nothing wrong with the camera itself, it's just this hazy effect that's caused by the clouds. So, but from the look of it, looking at the image quality on this camera, is pretty impressive already. So what we're going to do now, we're going to do a capture on this. So we're ready to do a bit of imaging tonight, and we're going to test the GP cam on its guiding. Hopefully we'll be able to get some good images. I'm
I'm hoping to get the Heart Nebula tonight, and we're going to test out the camera's performance, see how it works with PhD2. As you can see, I've got my 80mm Lunt refractor, and it's fitted with the QHY8L CCD with the 0.8 times photo reducer and field flattener. So basically I'm using the finder guide setup, and I've just adjusted my guide scope. I've had to use a lock ring because obviously with the kit being provided, it doesn't come with it. Luckily I've got a lock ring, so I can lock the focus on there, so I don't need to mess about with it. Unfortunately you will not get this when you get your setup. So basically now we're going to wait till dusk and start imaging. So as we can see, we're ready to rock and roll. Now, to show you how the camera is set, with most cameras, if you're going to use it as a guider, basically you have your USB lead here. This will be connected directly to your computer, and this is the ST4 lead. As you can see at the back, you can connect it at the back of this camera. It's a very good lead. It's not too long and it's not too short, and it connects to the auto guider port. As you can see here, auto guider port. At this moment in time, with this guider port connected, on some mounts, usually the guide port is used on the side of the mount itself, but on this one, the actual guide port is actually on the base, on the QHY5. So now we're sort of rigged up, ready to go. The scope's balanced, everything's set up, everything's pointing north. What we're going to do is we're going to proceed to do our star alignment, and once we've done our star alignment, we then readjust the polar alignment scope and adjust it so that we'll get our tracking. Once we've got the imaging set up and it's pointing to the target, we'll then set up our guide camera. Guiding is very important on your setup if you want to take images as long as 5 to 10 minutes and even longer than that. So guiding is very crucial. Basically what they set up is that this camera will detect star drifting, and with the motions of the stars as they drift, basically it will input signals to the ST4 lead to the mount and tell it to move, to speed up or slow down. So that's why we use auto guiding, is to take longer exposures. Now if your polar alignment is correct, you usually can get away without auto guiding, but because there is imperfections within the gearing system, it's not always accurate, and getting spot on polar alignment can be very tricky. So auto guiding is just an additional accessory that will help your guiding a lot more and give longer exposures. And we'll wait till it gets dark and then we're ready to rock and roll. So now we've got the GP Astro camera connected to the finder scope, so we're now going to try guiding. We're going to test the camera for the guiding performance. First off, we've got the setting, and the good thing about this camera is auto detects in PhD2. I've got the mount set on camera, and basically what we're going to do now is we're going to try and connect all, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set the loop button here, and here we go. Here we got a few stars here, around about 1.5 seconds. You can set it up to higher or lower, but I believe that 1.5 is a good setting. You target on a reasonably dim star or a bright or medium star. Okay, we're still locked in there. Once you're locked on there, you then click on the target sign, and basically now what's going to happen now is that GP Astro camera will begin its calibration. Now bear in mind that this will take a while to set up. You know, it could take up to about 5 to 10 minutes. So give it some time, let it go through the motions. It will then start testing the west, the north, the east and the south ends of the motion of the stars. And basically what that's trying to do is trying to detect the motion of the stars. Once it's done that, it will then readjust the mount and tell it where to go.
Hi everyone. Unfortunately, as I was just doing the auto guiding, getting it all set up, what happened, like for most amateur astronomers, will face a known enemy, and that is the clouds moving. The clouds moved in and just ruined my entire imaging session altogether. So unfortunately, I've been unable to do a bit of guiding, show you how it works with PhD 2, how the software works and how to use it as a guider. Now unfortunately for the past few weeks, up to about a month, I've just been inundated with clouds and bad weather, and unfortunately I just couldn't get any results of testing the GP Astro camera. So it really has been a very disappointing month. Well, hopefully I'll get to do another part 2, to show you how this camera performs on the auto guiding and also the images of deep sky objects. Take on board what I've reviewed so far on the camera. So far it looks very promising. I've tested it out on a few occasions on the moon. It looks pretty impressive. The good thing about the camera so far is because it's build quality, it's very durable, decent cables, a few minor accessories like the dust cap, for example, that could be just a little bit better, and also there is a few minor glitches on the software, the actual Alto Astro software. But I can assure you that Alto Astro will improve on their software. So far it's been a really good camera, and for the price you can't really grumble. £135 for a camera that does virtually everything you need. It's a good all-round camera. You can take good pictures of the moon and planets, you can take basic deep sky objects, and plus a main thing is it's a very good auto guider. I haven't been able to test it so far, how it performs on the guiding, but I can assure you, looking at the results of this camera, particular one I was just setting up there, as I noticed with the stars, I noticed that there's a lot less noise on the camera, which is a good thing. And with that camera being less noisy, it means I don't have to take a dark frame to compensate between the noise background and the actual stars. So with that allows me to pinpoint the stars, what are the true stars and what is the noise. But because there's hardly any noise on this camera, even when I pushed it to 5 or 10 seconds, which is quite a bit, it still maintained that level of noise quite a bit. So you can actually define which is the stars and which is the hot pixels. We aren't even taking some of the a dark frame which you cover up on the guide scope. So basically it allows PhD guiding to calculate which is the hot pixels or the stars. So for when the weather gets good, hopefully I'll get this. This is my portable one. This is my portable imaging rig. Basically, this is my Ioptron Smart EQ mount, fitted with the Skywatcher Equinox 66mm. I have the 50mm guide scope here, with the Altair Astro here fitted, and also I have my trusty Zoo ASR. So this is a typical portable imaging rig, hoping that the weather clears up so that I can get to test the actual Alto Astro camera. So far the results are very promising. So far, for a camera that's the cheapest around at the moment, I'm looking forward to how it performs on the guiding, and hopefully get some really good images of the deep sky objects. So once again, thanks for watching. Look forward for part 2 when it comes out, when the weather's good, and I hope to see you again. Thanks for watching, and clear skies to you all.